Welcome to another episode of the Irish Fantasy Punts, coming to you live from a stereo near you because it's a podcast, so listen to whenever the hell you feel like it. Jamie, what do you think of podcasting? You any good at it, or are you still rookie in this?
Still a bit shit, to be quite honest about it. I think we're getting better, guys. Week on week, I think there's small improvements, Joe. I think we're kind of naturals at this, lads, by now.
Getting the reps in,
Getting the reps in, yeah. By the end of by Christmas, we'll have a 6-pack of a podcast.
We might actually have picked the right fantasy player by then, actually done something correctly.
One of us might be leading the fantasy league.
No, we won't.
We'll have all absolutely given up on fantasy by that stage.
I might be carried to the lead by the king, but other than that, there's no hope.
Well, Jamie found out that Derrick Henry is going to be a bust based off of one of his famed fantasy websites.
King Bust, yeah.
King Bust Street.
I was so close to just bringing it up, and I was actually just going to read it out because I was like, oh, that's actually really funny. And I wasn't even going to tell you because I just wanted to see Shane's reaction, to be quite honest.
You may as well do it now in the comedy section of the show. That's what we're doing a bit of an intro. So give us a bit of a joke.
No, I kind of wish I didn't hold on to it. I kind of wish I had held on to it now, to be honest.
All right, I have a joke for you. You're going to love it.
Oh, God.
So, oh, it's so good. All right. I was in the butcher's the last day. I was getting some meat, and I bet him 50 quid that he couldn't reach the meat on the top shelf. And he said 50 quid.
Oh, no.
No, the stakes are too high, man.
I fucking love it. Oh, I love it. Yes.
I'd just like to apologize to our listeners for
that. That is
Fuck
prime real estate. We should bring that as a segment.
He was talking about prime beef, man, not prime real estate.
Oh, I missed one. I missed the trick. Oh, be tender. I'm tired.
It's a silent. Just
Right.
made it all the better.
On this week's show, we're currently looking for a new third analyst.
Who doesn't do beef puns?
No. Who does good beef puns?
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, beef puns are a rare medium done well.
On this week's show, currently looking for a new host.
The podcast is now cancelled. Decided to quit.
Yeah, it's just a one-man show these days now.
So in the 3
There's
minutes
no
of
beef-related talk.
So in the 3 minutes of this podcast, we've decided that we got really good at podcasting, and now we just tanked it all together. So that's impressive.
So we didn't
I don't think we
decide
said
that.
really
That's what
good at
he
all.
made this.
Learn to love the shit jokes, Shane. Come on.
It's going to be a long day for you if you don't have them in your repertoire.
No.
Okay.
Moving on.
This week we're going to talk about fantasy busts that we picked out of the draft where the ADP is just way too high for us, so we don't want to touch them. And we're also going to talk through a few trades we've seen in Dynasty Leagues this week. So we'll do our normal run through. We just give our busts, and then we'll do the trades after. So, Shane, you have Derrick Henry as your bust then, yeah?
No. What are you doing, man?
We're going to caveat
Like-
this bust section as well, where we couldn't let Shane take CMC. This one wasn't allowed.
Yeah. Anyone who listens regularly was probably thinking when they heard bust, they were like, oh, that twat's going to be talking about either CMC, Lamar, or Saquon Barkley. But no, I stayed away from the usual suspects because I'm not going to bore you with that. Everyone's already heard. Anyone who's listened has heard me talk about them already. And look, who I was really actually looking at, there was 3 guys in the pot for me. Jamie and myself both looked at Metcalf, which he said before the show. I looked at Metcalf as well, but I don't want to put Metcalf down just because he is a bad QB. So I stayed away from him because I don't think it's obviously not his fault. But then I was looking at Austin Eckler, who I didn't really like going into last year, and he played really well, and I thought, he'll never do it again. But the more I've looked at the Chargers, I'm thinking like, man, Eckler could be set up for a serious year. So I was like, right, we have to go to the third option. And that was Cam Akers. I think Cam Akers is so injury prone and the hype is so big behind him. And he's kind of averaging out as an early 4th round pick, late 3rd round pick, that the ADP for you. He's played 13 games in total in his NFL career. This will be his 4th season. No, his 3rd season. Sorry. So in going into his 3rd year, 2 seasons in, he's played 13 games or 14 games. He scored 2 touchdowns. He has ran for, in the regular season, something like 600 and high 600 yards, low 700 yards total. And yet the hype around him is he's a 3-down back. The dude can't stay healthy. He's never performed at an extremely high level. The only things we can go off is off his rookie year. And for me, in the late 3rd round, early 4th round, he's too much of a risk. If he fell to the 6th or maybe late 5th round and you were lacking a running back, I might take a shot on him. But I don't think for redrafts, keeper leagues, things like that, I don't think Cam Akers' value should be early 4th, late 3rd. I think that's too high. There's still too many good players on the board. You have too many good wide receivers there at that point. You even have, I would argue, better running backs in the 5th round who will be more consistent, have shown more consistency than him. Like he's averaged 3.3 yards per touch in his time in the league. He's, what can we say about him here? He's 14 regular season games. He's only ever been inside the top 10 of the week running backs once, ever. He's been top 10 running backs weekly once in his whole NFL career. Like, that's shockingly bad for a guy who everyone is saying is a 3-down back, can tote the rock for the Rams the whole way to the Super Bowl again this year. Like, if I'm the Rams, I'm thinking this is definitely a 50-50 split, number one. Number two, I'm saying Akers is more than likely going to pick up a niggle throughout the year again, somewhere along the line. Henderson is probably going to be your main RB1 with the Rams. And Henderson is what? He's like a 7th or 8th round pick.
I think he's almost down to the 11th round.
Yeah, he's well
like
down
that's insane for me. Like I think Akers, for a guy who's definitely sharing the rock, probably 50-50. He's probably not going to play week 1 from the injury concerns that we're hearing. Like, it's all set up for Henderson, who's a very late round pick, to go on and be the main man for the Rams. So that is why I chose to go with Cam Akers as my bust pick for 2022.
Yeah, I like Akers, and he's a guy I am looking at. Sorry, but I can kind of see where you're coming from. He's a very unknown commodity in that we don't know if he's going to stay healthy or not. If he stays healthy, though, like, we know the Rams' backfield can produce some fantasy, very relevant targets, as we saw with Henderson last year. But it is that unknown. And when we get to my pick, I'm kind of around the same kind of bust kind of idea as you are. You know, you just don't know what a guy is going to be like come back from injury. And you're kind of falling down the same kind of direction as McCaffrey, where you know they're very good backs. If they stay healthy for the whole season, they're going to be very fantasy relevant RB1s all the way. But you just don't know how long they're going to stay healthy. That's the problem.
Well, look, I put it this way: if you want to take him off his rookie year, all right, I have the stats up here in front of me. He played 12 games. He scored a total fantasy points of, no PPR in this, 95.3 points is what he scored. Like, for 12 games, like, you put Henry, right, into that conversation. Now, I know he's a different level of running back, but Henry played, 8 games last year? He still finished running back 15 or running back 16. Like, you're talking, if you're going to be that dominant running back that he's been told to be, and he's going to play for a really good team that will have a lot of open running lanes because they have such a good wide receiver core. He has to put up more points than. And I know it was his rookie year and I'm being harsh on him, but the same year he played 12 games, right? His yards per carry were 4.5 yards per carry nearly, which is actually fairly good. But his touchdowns, do you want to have a guess how many touchdowns he scored in his rookie year playing 12 games?
I'm gonna say it's terrible, so I'm gonna say 1.
Two
Two.
touchdowns.
Oh,
Like, for me to draft a guy who's only ever scored 2 touchdowns in the league, it's not good enough to be drafting him in the 3rd round or early in the 4th round. He has to be lower down my list.
but you
You
His
gotta
know,
think,
ADP is gone. 3rd round,
Huh?
is it? Is his ADP
Yeah.
the 3rd round?
Yeah, he's late 3rd round, early 4th. That's kind of where he's going.
but you gotta think he has to have some sort of value in him that the Rams think he has. Because they've practically, like you can see from the draft capital of Henderson, that he's practically a nobody now. And Henderson was one of the top running backs there for weeks last year. So
Yeah,
obviously
this-
the Rams obviously see something in Akers that we haven't seen yet. But they obviously do if they're willing to drop Henderson and make Akers their number 1.
Yeah, but
I'm
is
just
Akers
saying,
the
I
number
think he'd
1?
be a bust.
Yeah,
I don't-
is
Fuck
Akers
you
the number
guys.
1? Like, but this is the thing. Preseason and what you see in camps, like camps with running backs, there's too much unknowns because the reps are just split so evenly now with a lot of running backs. Unless you're the likes of Zeke, who's getting rested a lot through camp anyway, and he doesn't play in the preseason, or the likes of Nick Chubb, who gets very few carries, if any at all, as well. Like, those guys are just expected to go. Cam Akers has been going during preseason. Darrell Henderson has been going during preseason. These guys are competing for the job. And Akers is not a guarantee for week 1. And if Henderson puts up good numbers week 1, I think we're going to see a very evenly split backfield. And for something that's going to be that evenly split, one guy been drafted late 3rd and one guy been drafted down in the 11th or the 10th round, in around that region, is absolutely insane. Like, I get the separation between Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt every year. Chubb is a 1st, 2nd round pick. He does get the majority. He's like 65% of the snaps for him. And Hunt is down lower, but Hunt gets a lot of goal line stuff and a lot of passing downs in the red zone. So Hunt scores a lot of touchdowns. So he's up in the 6th, 5th, between kind of the 5th and the 7th, we'll say. I get that split. That makes perfect sense. But if you're going 50-50 in the backfield, and Henderson is a bigger back than Cam Akers, so he's going to get more goal line stuff anyway, like, he stands out to me he has the ability, and he's going to be given the possessions to score more touchdowns than Akers anyway. So Akers is going to be relying on a lot of pass catching and a lot of deep field breaks to score his own touchdowns with the Rams this year either way. I don't think he gets in on the goal line situations. So his touchdowns aren't going to be crazy anyway. Now, I could be completely wrong. And I do really like Akers, so I hope I am wrong, but I just don't see it. I think Henderson will be the main back this year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 50-50 anyway. So I think if you're taking him in the 3rd and you can take Henderson in the 11th, take Henderson in the 11th. It's cheaper, and you could get the same amount.
I do like to take some of a hype too, so don't go by what I say.
He hates the 5th pick.
I took Edwards there in the 1st round. I love hype. Especially our running back. So this could be the hype running back. You never know. It's just
Are you in on Brees Hall this year then?
Yeah, he's definitely
I'm
taking
actually
Brees
not,
Hall
no.
in our keeper. He definitely is.
He's just throwing
He
us off.
100% is.
No.
Brees Hall is going, I think, is a 4th round now or something. He's after coming up again in the ADP. So Jamie's going to be looking for him like
No.
3rd round.
Jamie's taking him to back the 1st.
I've learned my lesson, lads. I did it once, and I will never do it again. Just don't mind the hype. I just don't know guys I like.
Jamie, transition into your bus pick there then.
My boss pick. Jesus. So kind of following on from Shane's there. So I think we're all kind of going the same back as running backs. So I think the running backs are getting an awful doing today
I
for some
pivoted
others.
mid show, so I'm going to change mine.
Oh, typical.
Oh,
Look at
lads, we have
typical
a
Englishman, like typical Englishman.
can't trust them. Stab you in the back, like.
Yeah.
At least he didn't jump in front of me and take my dad. But yeah.
Feeling
But,
corn left, right, and center.
Oh yeah, so my guy in A is a running back, and he's guy for the Ravens. So I'm taking J.K. Dobbins as my boss pick for the week for this year. So Dobbins looks like he's going around third, start of the fourth round. People seem to be very high on him for some odd reason. Kind of similar to Akers, I think. A lot of hype about him. A guy who probably will be the RB1 there, but you got to think in in the in that in the Ravens, you got Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson is just going to start taking runs off this guy all the time, right? So the problem with Dobbins was last year he was injured. He didn't play a single game last year. The year before, he looked very impressive just off his rookie year. What did he have for my? So he had nine touchdowns. He was like an RB 22 at one point. But he looked like he was just a man possessed. He looked like he was going to be the next big thing. Then he got injured, right? And you just can't trust a man coming off the injury anyway. So he missed an entire season injury. Now he's back in the pup again. So he's injured again before we even start. Still a fourth round ADP pick. I don't think you can back off an injury like that. Even his reps with Edwards last year, they were very close. John, it wasn't like he was the out and out RB1. He never was. Himself and Edwards were always close. It was just that Dobbins had the touchdowns to inflate those fantasy points, right? Like you just well, to be honest, the two of them are injured now, and yeah, so so like Jackson's going to get the ball now for the first few weeks, and if you're going to spend the third or fourth round pick on this guy who has an ACL injury, and people just don't come off ACL injuries, very well ever. Lamar Jackson's going to steal your touchdowns. He's not going to get that as much ball as you would like him to do for the value you're picking, and I just think he's just such. Like you're looking for him at that slot to be either a low end RB1 or your high end RB2, and I just don't think he's ever going to get there. Maybe a flex spot at some point, but I don't for that kind of value. He's just not worth it.
Yeah, we didn't see him at all last season, and he's struggling through camp now. He's not going to be ready for week one, really, is he?
No, not.
No, he's going to be a second half of the season player. Like you're looking kind of week 8 onwards for Dobbins, I'd say.
Yeah, and I kind of learned my lesson from fantasy that you need to win the first few weeks. Like you can't exactly just coast into the playoffs. If you've lost your first 8 games, you're not getting in.
Yeah, and after having a whole 11 months thing. Yeah, 11 months. Yeah, sorry, 11 months after he tore his ACL. He's back in the injury list again. He's not going to start week 100%, but he's probably not going to start for 6 or 7 weeks. And ACL injuries are tough injuries to get back from. They never seem to be right after an ACL. So he's never going to have that explosiveness. Like you're looking, if you're going to draft Dobbins, you need to be going down to rounds 6, 7, 8. Even lower.
It's like remember Saquon when he came back at the start of last year? He was just so sluggish looking.
Yeah, it's just not a guy you want to be risking on. But if he does come back right, he could very easily be a breakout. He's one of these guys that could be a bust or a breakout if he can get back right and can get back healthy. His 2020 season was phenomenal, to be honest. Like. He was averaging 6 yards a carry. He had 9 touchdowns. He was a rookie at that time, and he was going against one of the best run-heavy offenses in the league with Lamar Jackson, and still putting up those numbers as a rookie. So, like, it's not like he can't do it. It's the ACL. That's why I'm calling it a bust.
Yeah, touching 160 points in your first season is special. So like he has the potential to be special. Like I think there was a stat that came out about him there on Twitter. I actually don't remember who had it up on Twitter, but he's 9% or 10% of his runs that he has in the NFL, which are limited because they're only in his rookie season, went for 15 plus yards. Like he's explosive he was explosive when he was on the ball. It's just as Jamie said with the ACL tear, and he had, was it his LCL as well? He had an issue with that, I think, as well. Like is he going to have the same explosiveness coming back? And 9 times out of 10 off an ACL, you're not.
No.
You know, like you're just not. Like
And
that's
he
a
really
big
was,
part of his game.
like he really was exposed off the back in 2020. You know, he looked
Yeah.
like he was going to be good. Like he scored a touchdown every single one of those games. His yards per carry were I have it here somewhere. It was 6.5, 4.1, 4.6, 7, and then it was 12 yards per carry, 160 yards around the last game that season.
Like that's good stats. Like
So long ago, though. Like,
yeah, that's it. Like I do agree. I think since the news about his injury, Jamie, he's gone from a 4th round pick to a 5th round pick, but he is early 5th round.
and
He
Gus
seems to be
Edwards
going
gone as
early
well. Like,
5th. Yeah, so ADP wise, like J.K. Dobbins more than likely isn't going to play till maybe week 4, week 5. He's not going to be fully fit till week 8, week 9. So even if he does come back to the talent he had in his rookie year, for the points you're going to get off him and everything, he's not worth a 5th round pick. I'd 100% agree with you. Like he needs to. You're kind of looking at a guy who should be going down around in redrafts, keepers, those kind of things. Down 9th, 10th round, maybe. Do you know that's kind of the value I'd have on him for the game time you're going to get out of him.
Yeah, the Ravens also went and got Kenyon Drake this week, so they're obviously covering themselves.
Yeah. So
not
like
that Kenyon Drake can cover anything, but
yeah. Like Dobbins' value probably is going to drop the more we get closer to the season and people haven't done their drafts yet. I think his value is going to progressively get lower. His ADP is going to drop, I'd say, but I still don't see him dropping below the 6th round at this point. It's too close to the season. Yeah. But you can see that he's a tough guy to pick up. Like I know I'll be staying clear of him in the draft. I don't care if I'm giving Bodie that information. I'll be staying well clear of him in the draft. I won't be touching him.
If I go running back, and he's sitting in the 5th or 6th, I might take him. You know, if I have like 2 good running backs and I can sit and wait on a running back. But
yeah, like I definitely pick him up, John, sit him on the bench. John, if there's no one else around there, but I am looking well down.
If he's still on the pup list, then he probably will drop in our draft anyway. If we're talking specifically our draft, he'd probably drop anyway. And if I'm looking around, I'm saying, I could do with a bit more depth at running back. I already have 3 guys who I know can show me some few points every week. Then I'll probably pick him up but it'd have to be, for me, the earliest I think I touch him is the 8th round. I don't think I'd go near him before that. If he's there in like the 8th round and he comes to me, I'll probably take him just for the value that if he does kick off at the end of the year, we have the keeper league. This is that I could say next year, oh, look, fucking, he looked outstanding at the end of the year. He'll be a keeper for me next year. So that'd be my thinking on it. But other than that, I'm not taking him any earlier than that. Like,
yep, I think it's fair enough. So
I
pivoted.
Do you want to give us your shock pick of the week?
I was originally going to go with Najee, but I decided to back away from that one
because you bottled it. You know he's going to be good.
my original thought process was, because Big Ben isn't in the offense anymore and they're not dumping it off to him every single play because Big Ben can't run and can't throw it, he won't get as much volume, and you're also going to be having a Mitch Trubisky offense that probably will be 3 and out a lot. So you can't score points if you're not on the field. I just don't like where Najee's being drafted either, so I won't have Najee on any of my teams, but I'm not going to call for him to be a bust because he is quite good at the old football. So I've switched to T. Higgins, the Bengals receiver, purely because then this is the least little bit of analysis you need is there's always a Super Bowl hangover. There's 2 receivers there being drafted incredibly highly. It's very hard to get 2 wide receiver ones on one team. It is doable. It happens to 1 team a year, but that's 1 team out of 32. So like, if I'm going to make my bet, I'm going to say Jamar Chase takes a massive step on in year 2 because he was already a beast in year 1. I don't think Burrow has as good a year. Like the Bengals actually weren't that good in the regular season. They were good, but they put a massive run together in the playoffs. And that's how they got to the Super Bowl. They're going to be the darling. I think that's why T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are so high. Jamar Chase deserves to be that high, but I don't see Burrow sustaining the 2 of them at that high level. Like where you're drafting him is where currently is he going? And he's currently the 33rd player off the board in half PPR. So you're taking him in like the end of the 2nd, the 3rd round. Like that's very high for a number 2 on a team. And then you're also throwing into that mix that he's injured. Like he's doubtful for week 1. So it's the same thing with J.K. Dobbins. You have a wide receiver 2 for his team being drafted in the 2nd or 3rd round who's currently nursing an injury and might not even be there week 1. Could be slow in, could be week 4 before he's back on the field properly. That's just too much risk in a fantasy draft to take him and possibly be out of it by week 5.
Yeah, I like it. I don't like these bus, but it was a good point. Yeah, I don't realize he was actually that high. To be honest about it, that's very high. You can't give a 3rd round pick for someone like T. Higgins. Say like he's not going to look. I'm not going to say he's not going to be as good as his last year. He could very well, but you can see Jamar Chase definitely taking much more of that snap than T. Higgins is gonna, especially if he's injured now and he's going to be out maybe the first week, maybe the first 2 weeks. He's a solid wide receiver 2, but you get a solid wide receiver 2 one down the rounds.
Yeah, players going after him: George Kittle, Terry McLaurin, Michael Pittman, David Montgomery, Deontay Johnson, Travis Etienne. I think I'd prefer all those players over T. Higgins.
Yeah, that's fair to right.
I don't know. I think Jamar Chase had such a good season last year. He's going to be double covered every play, and it just means T. Higgins he's quick, like he's good in the breaks. He's decent, like he's a top end wide receiver too. I just think his target share goes up. Like he had nearly 25% of the target share last year. I think T. Higgins could be looking at like 30% this year, 40 maybe, just because Jamar Chase gets so much attention. I don't think Burrow will have. I don't think Burrow will have as good of a year either. But if you look at the Bengals, I think their offensive line is after getting better. I think they're going to keep him better protected. They got Lael Collins from the Cowboys, and I didn't think Lael Collins was any bit of a slouch. He had 2 bad years at the Cowboys, but his record shows that he's a good right tackle. Like, so I think Burrow's line getting better. Mixon, they're able to play off that play action with Mixon. And Samaje Perine had a great. Is he still playing for him this year? I actually don't know that Samaje Perine move on or not. But
I couldn't tell you. If you give me a second.
Yeah, like he played well for them last year, didn't he? Perine, but was it them?
He was roster,
he was good in bursts.
Yeah, so like I don't know. They have a decent running game there as well in Cincinnati, and that opens up a lot of lanes for the wide receivers too. So T. Higgins for me, yeah, I think he is probably a bit high to be 3rd, 2nd round, but I wouldn't like if I was stuck and players I wanted were gone off the board. I don't think I'd have too much of a problem drafting him late 3rd round, maybe. but I don't think he's too much of a reach. I think T. Higgins. Yeah, I get what you're saying. He's very highly rated as a wide receiver 2 in a team, but he might have that year. I don't think Cincinnati will be too far off what they were last year. Like their division isn't good. Like
he was drafted as the wide. He's been drafted as the wide receiver 12 in drafts, and he finished last year as the wide receiver 17.
Yeah, it is. It is a bit high, like, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like
I just feel like you're paying so much for him. Like if he was in the 4th or 5th round, I'd be happy. But
yeah, like is that going ahead of guys like he's going ahead of Cortland Sutton. He's going ahead of Brandon Cooks,
Sutton, Michael Pittman, DK Metcalf, Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah. Like Williams. For me, all of them guys, like I would take those guys over T. Higgins. Like if you have the chance to get a wide receiver 1, I don't really care what team they're on. Like unless it's
like Hollywood's the wide receiver 23 off the board.
Like yeah, but I would take Hollywood there. I wouldn't take Hollywood higher than there. Like realistically, Hollywood is a wide receiver 1 till D-Hop comes back.
Yeah, but that's 6 weeks of the season. How many weeks is T. Higgins the wide receiver 1 for his team?
Never.
Exactly.
Never. But I still think T. Higgins could have a better year than Hollywood at the end of the year.
Don't get me wrong. I love T. Higgins. Like when Jamar Chase got drafted to the Bengals, I was kind of a bit like, oh, that kind of kills Higgins, and I really liked Higgins. But I would love to have Higgins on my team, just not at that draft price.
No, the draft. I do agree with that. The draft price is too high. When you mentioned the other guys around him, and like what's Cortland Sutton's going the 4th? Round, is it 5th or 4th? Yeah, he's in around there. Like 4th, for T. Higgins to be that much higher than him, I don't agree with that. Like I think he's him and Jerry Jeudy could be one or the other is primed for a big year with Russ at the QB. There, like I just don't like T. Higgins that high. Actually, the more I'm thinking about it now, I don't like him that high. I can see why he's that high, and I can see why people drafted him for what I first said. But like when you mentioned the guys around him, like it is a bit silly that he's going that high. Like I can't.
Yeah, you can see why you drafted him. Of course, like he's a solid wide receiver too. He had some good games there last year. I was looking at there a second ago. And now I close it for some reason. But like Joe, he was getting some solid points there. Most weeks it was over 10. No, there was an odd couple of weeks, all right, where he was getting 2s and 3s. But look, he got that in wide receivers. That happens in fantasy football. You just have to kind of put up with that. But like he's a solid wide receiver too. And I think the whole point of him being a bust is the fact that you're giving away so much of a value for someone that you can't trust on. If you're drafting that high, you need consistency, and that's the overall theme of fantasy football. You need consistency. It doesn't matter who they play for, as you said, Jane. Like as long as they're a wide receiver 1 and they're getting some bit of half ball there, you're still getting points, and that's all you need. Wide receivers are so volatile, and if they're a wide receiver 2, he could very easily get you no points a lot of weeks. It might happen. Higgins, but
there are some teams where I will say there are some teams where the wide receiver 1 is so good. Like you look this year now with say the Raiders, right? Devontae Adams is one of those guys. He's so good that even when he's double covered, like he'd still make a play. But what's that going to do? It's going to open it up for a guy like Hunter Renfrow, who had a great year last year. Like you're going to look at him now starting to get a lot more ball, I think, this year because Adams is going to pull away the coverage. So he's going to be a good guy to pick up. But his draft value is positioned right. Like he's like a 5th round or 6th round guy as well, isn't he?
Renfrow? I'd say he's lower than that.
Is he, like, I like him this year. Like I think he could be another guy who's a decent pickup this year. He's a decent flex option, wide receiver 2 on maybe a bye week where you're caught. Like he has that potential, I think. But
Renfrow is wide receiver 36, so he's going
about the 8th round.
Yeah,
probably 7th. Yeah. Into the 7th.
So like I like that value there, but I think if you look at who's around T. Higgins, I think T. Higgins should be higher than Renfro, obviously. But there's no way he should be going before guys like Cortland Sutton, Michael Pittman, those kind of guys. Like he just shouldn't be going before them. Like that's madness.
We smashed some trades in.
Yeah, we hit this. See who traded for a few busts.
The first trade we have, well, we talked about it before the show because it kind of made our minds boggle a little bit. So in League 110, we had Michael Carter traded for a 2024 first and a 2023 fifth. So a first round pick in 2 years and a fifth round pick next year. So the fifth round pick to me means nothing. You can chuck that out. So it's essentially a Michael Carter for a first round in 2 years. I don't like it really. I'd prefer to have the first in 2 years, but you guys think Michael Carter has a bit more run this year? I think Michael Carter could be dead in the water.
No, I think Michael Carter has a place on the Jets this year, and I think Michael Carter will end up on a team somewhere. He was good last year. He wasn't great, but he looked like a guy that was growing week to week. And I think Michael Carter will be an established running back on an NFL team somewhere after the Jets, because I think Breece Hall, whatever way you want to say it, will take over and will dominate that backfield. But eventually, it won't be this year. I think Michael Carter this year gets an even share of the ball. Maybe not even, maybe 60-40, but he has his plays. But he's not worth the first round pick with his current situation. You know, he's not. I wouldn't have given away a first for him. But I can see why you're doing it. It's investment in the future.
I don't think Shane has ever said Breece Hall without saying, or Bryce Hall, whichever way you want to say
it. Whatever way his mother called him, I suppose.
Some people are particular, man. I'm trying to appeal to all people of their pronunciations.
By saying, I don't know how to say your name.
Yeah. Yeah, when he says it on telly, I'll say it that way then.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, I agree with you, to be honest. Like, I think Carter's a 1 year running back this year, depending on how quick they bring up Breece or Bryce Hall, which could be sooner rather than later. You never know. After 2 or 3 weeks, he could take over that backfield. But I think Michael Carter has that much talent in him that I think they're not going to just throw him to the side. He did well last year. He really, in a very poor team, and he was still doing really. He did good points for Jets running back, and that's no sorry ass, like, you know. But yeah, it's way too high. I just wouldn't take the first for him anyhow.
Moving on. So then in 106 we had Allen Lazard traded for a 2023 second round pick. We all kind of applauded this one. It was a nice trade for kind of both sides, really.
Yeah, don't hate that. You get the upside of Allen Lazard for the year, potentially the year. After that, you probably don't see much in Allen Lazard, because you would imagine either Dubes or Watson will probably take over as the wide receiver core then. But this year is definitely Lazard's year. He's one and done. He has to do something this year if he's going to ever be a top wide receiver in the league. This is his chance. No wide receiver will ever get a better chance than Allen Lazard this year.
Is this a contract year as well for Allen Lazard, or is he got another year after this one?
I don't know, to be honest.
I thought I read somewhere he's up soon. I don't think he's there for that much longer.
What round was he drafted in?
Wow, that's awesome.
He definitely wasn't high up anyway. Like, he wasn't a first round pick. We can tell you that much straight away.
No.
Yeah, because he wasn't. No, but he's
in the league 5 years.
He was on a while, right? Yeah.
Jesus.
He's only shown up recently, man.
He was undrafted.
It was going to take me longer than the pro track to find this out. So work away there. Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, he's for a second round pick. Allen Lazard makes sense. That's a good trade. I think you've got a lot of upside this year. Could be a career year for Allen Lazard this year. He's primed as the number one wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers this year. So for me, there's a lot of targets going to be left over from Devontae Adams going. There has to be someone to mop him up. MVS is gone. A couple of rookies after coming in. How well will Rodgers gel with them? Do you know, he's primed to have a great year this year. So I like it. The future
Like, it's not like you did bad last year either.
is
Joe.
uncertain for him, but for a second, one and done maybe is great.
Yeah, it's not like Alan Lazard did bad dudes last year either. Like, he was very fantasy relevant there at one point.
Yeah,
You know,
Green Bay gave him a 1 year, $4 million contract this year. So he finished the rookie contract and they gave him another year for $4 million. So if he plays well this year, then he can cash in next year.
Yeah, like I think he could be one of the most sought after free agents at the end of the year if Rodgers, if he does pick up the lion's share of the targets from Devontae Adams, which he's set to do really. Like,
this next trade is a bit of a weird one. So in 105, it was Mo Ali Cox, Darnell Mooney for Amari Cooper and Mike Gesicki. It's interesting. I prefer Mooney as the wide receiver to Cooper, but I prefer Gesicki to Mo Ali Cox at the tight end position. But I think I kind of prefer the Mooney side purely because the tight end position's a bit meh anyway. Either you two have any strong opinions on that one?
I'd say your two tight end positions there, like throwing away your 2 rounds. It's like you're not really going to give a shit about Mo Ali Cox or Gesicki when it comes down to it. To be guy, unless you're desperate for a tight end, you're definitely going to be able to pick up someone better eventually on a waiver wire somewhere. I think a trade here is for Mooney and Cooper, which I definitely go on the Mooney side. I think there's a lot of upside in Mooney this year if Fields can be any bit half decent at all. He's kind of like what we were saying earlier on. He's a wide receiver 1. He's a guy you can draft and you know he's going to get maybe not a lot of ball, but he's going to get ball and he's going to get targets. And, you know, consistency is key. That's the kind of guy you want.
Consistency is key.
yeah, but like the problem with the 2 wide receivers, like, look, Amari Cooper, he will get you point. Like, I've had him the last 2 years. He'll get you points on home days. On away days, good luck to you. You might get 5, 6 points in a non-PPR. He doesn't do it on away days. Gesicki and Mo Ali Cox, yeah, I think I would prefer to have Gesicki over Mo Ali Cox. I think Mo Ali Cox his production isn't anywhere near as good as Gesicki's. Gesicki gets a lot more targets. But Darnell Mooney, I think, is the most upside out of the whole lot of them in the trade. He could be a breakout player. What's going to stop him from being a breakout player more than anything is the fact that Justin Fields is his quarterback. So for me there, I don't know. I think you're both getting shafted some way, shape or another. So I think this is just one I have to.
Cooper's no quarterback either. Like,
I know, yeah. But Cooper is an established wide receiver was first round talent. He's one of the best route runners in the league. Like, when Cooper's on form, he's up there with the best of the receivers. Like, his routes are crisp as fuck. Like, he's a good player.
Crisp as a shirt, Martin.
Yeah, like this trade, I just don't know. Like, for me, there's no winner, there's no loser in this. It's a fair enough trade, and I think, but it's one of them ones that sits there and looks at you, and you just say, at the end of the year, you're going to look back at that trade and say, someone definitely lost and someone definitely won, and there's a big fucking difference between who got the better end of that. Like, that's what it screams to me, but I just don't know who.
Well, it's a good chance all 4 of those players at some point is just going to be dropped off that team.
Oh yeah.
In the next league, we have Darrell Henderson traded for a 2023 second and a 2023 third. We were talking about Darrell Henderson earlier in the show. I don't mind this trade. I might have tried to get away without giving the third, but yeah, for a second, it's not bad value at all. Like,
yeah, well, if you're thinking ADP value, so surely you just get him with the third.
Yeah, but with Dynasty, he's gonna have to just throw that out the window a bit, don't you?
Yeah, I guess, but same thing. Like, if you're expecting Henderson to be the number 2 back there, I know we're talking about it earlier on. We do think it's gonna be a 50-50 split. Surely you can use that to your advantage. Try to trade less away from a guy that somebody might be like, well, he's going to be an RB2 there. I don't want him anymore.
I still don't mind the value that they give him. Like, for Dynasty, like second round pick, like it's a lot. It's a big shot in the dark. And I think for what you're getting out of Henderson, which I do believe to be a 50-50 split, and if Cam Akers has a bad year again this year, you're looking at Henderson going forward as the number one back for the Rams, one of the best offenses in the league. So I think it's a good trade. Like you could get absolutely shit on here, and Cam Akers, I could be completely wrong about him being my bus pick. Cam Akers could explode onto the scene and dominate that backfield, and Henderson might do nothing for you. But all you've wasted really is a shot in the dark second round pick in Dynasty. Like it's not the end of the world if he doesn't work out.
Yeah, no, I don't mind it. I just think you could have probably given them less. So you could have probably said, well, this guy's, I don't think he's going to be drafted that high. I don't think he's going to have that much production this year. I'm not going to give you 2 picks. You probably get away with giving him a 3rd pick at the moment.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Yeah, there could be some rejected trades in there that we don't see either. Like we're just going off of what was accepted there. But like, if it was me and that's your first offer, yeah, it's completely. I'd have been offered maybe a 3rd, 4th, or just a 3rd.
Yeah.
I'd agree with you there. But like, if you're in need of a running back, and you're only giving away a 2nd and a 3rd round pick, and a guy who's on a really good offense, probably going to get a good lot of snaps. It's a very decent trade. And he is, again, high upside. Like he could end up being a dominant back in the Los Angeles Rams team. Like he could end up taking the majority of the snaps.
The next one we have is in Superflex 103, and this is a belter of a trade now. So Ezekiel Elliott, my boy Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Nico Collins for Allen Robinson and Joe Mixon.
So you said Zeke, Amon, and Allen for Allen Robinson and Joe Mixon. There's just a nobody in there.
Or Nico Collins like an elephant in the tree. You just don't know how he got in there. Like
Nico Collins is getting some hype. People are talking about Nico Collins.
I am not hyping anyone from the Texans.
Who the fuck is hyping anyone from the Texans? Yeah.
Fuck that.
Well, have you not seen Damon Pierce is now in like the 6th round?
I've seen that.
Yeah. Go ahead and draft him. Yeah, we can all take him. If he's there, I don't want him.
Nico Collins is the wide receiver 2 for the Texans too. Like it's not like he's
he's not going to be ahead of Brandon Cooks. Like, and I'm not high on Brandon Cooks.
Anyway, let's just forget about Nico Collins and so Ezekiel Elliott and Amon-Ra for Allen Robinson and Joe Mixon. So you're getting a young receiver in Amon-Ra who's primed to break out, in my opinion. Allen Robinson, we're all like, people are hoping that Sean McVay sprinkles his magic dust on him. Joe Mixon for Zeke then. You'd prefer Joe Mixon. Zeke could be... Do we think Zeke has 2 more years left?
No, I think this is one and done for Zeke, really, to be honest with you now this year. Zeke's contract, basically, the way it's structured, he has 2 years left. But if the Cowboys want to cut ties with him after this year, it's not going to cost them much at all. He's very easily cut next year. So I think Zeke could actually be traded by the end of this year. He could be gone out of the Cowboys in the next offseason. They could trade him or they could cut him, depending on how his year goes this year. He's in a vital year this year. Has to do something. Has to get back to the old Zeke somehow. But at the minute, I take Joe Mixon over Zeke every day of the week. I think he's lined up to have a better season. And I would take St. Brown over Allen Robinson. I do believe Allen Robinson is a good player, and I do believe he could have a comeback year, but I never liked him that much with Chicago. He had 1 year where he really interested me. Other than that, I didn't like him. He's had a stream of bad quarterbacks, to be fair to him, but I don't see how you're going to take away touches from the likes of Cooper Kupp. Like I think Cooper Kupp's target percentage goes up, not down. So for me, Robinson, he's a nice guy to have, but I'm not getting rid of a good young, talented wide receiver in St. Brown in a dynasty league for Allen Robinson, who might bust again. Like And Zeke, I like the idea of getting Zeke in for maybe a year. Other than that, his value is going to go. Like him, if he has a good year this year, I'd highly recommend trading him at the end of this year.
Yeah, I think it's fair enough. You know, I'd say like you're going to take Mixon over Elliott. You're going to take Sam Brown over Robinson. You're going to do something with Nico Collins. I'm not sure what you're going to do with him, to be honest. But they obviously have some sort of plan.
Give him a set of
who-
pom-poms and let him cheer for you.
Who's your you got on? Was it Jeremy Thomas O2? Was it? Jeremy, if you're listening to this, will you please just tell us what in God's name you're going to do with Nico Collins? Because I'm just kind of curious now, to be quite honest. This just put me off altogether. Every time I look at the trade, I was like, what? I don't know. Sorry, I am. See, it's putting me off. But yeah, it's the uncertainty with Allen Robinson. We know he's a really good wide receiver, and John with the Rams, he could become an unbelievable wide receiver too there. But I do like the upside of Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's a good young lad. He's going to get better. I'd say he probably is going to eventually be a wide receiver one there. I think it's fair enough. You know, I think that both sides of the trade probably got what they wanted. You know, one side got a young wide receiver, one got the running back. And someone got Nico Collins for some reason. I don't know. It's good.
Poor Nico Collins, man. I stayed away from it this week. I didn't even give him any hardship.
Watch that I fucking trade him or something.
Last trade we have then to talk about is DeAndre Swift for DK Metcalf and Cam Akers. This is another one that I don't really hate. Like,
this is interesting now because two of these were going to be bust picks.
Yeah,
on the one side.
We had discussed DK Metcalf as a bust pick, but like that's kind of more because of Drew Lock than it is because of DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
Like this is also Dynasty. You get DK for the rest of his career.
If this was Swift for Akers and like a second or something, maybe I could get behind that. Maybe you've something to fall back on. I know it's a shot in the dark second, but you've something to fall back on pick wise. I wouldn't have traded away DK for the simple fact that I don't think DK is set to be a Seahawk for more than another year, and DK is a brilliant receiver. I think DK has the talent, he has the speed, the size, the ability that if he's in a good team or if he has a good quarterback, he's 20 points plus a week. Like he's shown he can do it when he's given the ball. When he's targeted, he could do it. So to give away a player like that, because I don't think he'll be a Seahawk for too much longer. Cam Akers, I can understand.
He signed a 3-year, $72 million contract.
He's going to get traded. He's going to force a trade in there somewhere. He's not staying. If he stays for those full 3 years, I'd be amazed. He does not want to be a Seahawk anymore.
Like they must be going for a high pick this year, are they? Surely.
Yeah, like, and if you're going that way, why not just jump, blow the fucking whole thing up? Like they're going to. He's probably their best player at the minute. So who are you going to trade away? Most teams, when they're blowing it up, trade away their best guy.
Yeah, but I don't think old man Pete thinks he's blowing it up is the issue.
Oh, old man Pete, man, might be there after this year either. Look, Akers is Swift. I prefer Swift over Akers. DK, I get why you put him in. It's for the reasons that we talked about earlier with Akers. Could be a bust. There's a chance he could bust. So you're getting the DK, the wide receiver, in as insurance that even if he does bust, you got something out of the trade. But I wouldn't have given up DK. That's my problem. I'm not even looking at the trade the way I should be looking at it. I'm just looking at it as, why the fuck did you trade DK?
I just think it's an awful lot for Swift, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it is.
There's a lot of like I know we were talking about Akers being a bust earlier and Metcalf. I say like you got it for life. You know, like if Akers can stay healthy, you got a running back one there and a wide receiver one.
I think that is my issue with it as well, Jamie. I think that's what I'm struggling with here as well. I'm thinking if you're giving up Akers and Metcalf with the potential the two of them have, I know we've hated on him in this now, but the potential they have to be number ones in their position. Like DeAndre Swift is a great player, but is he a top 5 running back?
I don't think you get enough upside with him. I really
Yeah,
don't.
like that's if you're getting a top 5 player back for 2 guys who have potential to be top 10 guys, you should be getting a top 5 guy in return. And Swift isn't that. Swift might be
Yeah.
a top 10 guy, but he's definitely not top 5 running backs. So for me, you kind of needed to get a top 5 guy back, maybe. I still don't hate it, but I would have wanted more with Swift. Even if they threw me a 2nd round pick with Swift, I think I'd feel a bit more comfortable in what I got. I know it's nothing special, but it just make me feel that bit better about the trade.
That brings us to the end. That was a relatively painless episode.
Yeah, God, you wouldn't think there's any Premier League football on tonight, would you?
What? There's Premier League football on tonight? And Erling Haaland has already scored for Man City? What?
Yeah, captain this week again, buddy, in the other fantasy that we do.
I think I've already won the Fantasy Premier League. I'm so far ahead of
Oh,
everyone.
shut up. No, you're not. You're like 20 points ahead of me. It's nothing.
I didn't even enter this year because
Yeah, because you're shit.
Hi, my
You
top...
were last year. You were
Yeah,
actually
but
nearly last.
I didn't even try last year.
There was 2 women in it who didn't play from week 1,
didn't
and you
play at
still nearly
all.
came last.
Yeah, I didn't play.
Yeah, cut to Jamie saying this exact same thing for the NFL fantasy.
Yeah.
I don't play a fantasy football.
JB, why were you picking up players off the waiver wire? If
I
you
know
weren't
nothing
playing? Why
about
was your
it.
team changing? Not even
Do a
playing, man. It's
podcast on it
computer.
every week. All right, on that note, we'll disappear. Say goodbye.
Good lads.
All
We'll talk to you
right.
next week.
Good luck to you. Thanks for listening.